should watch that.
I've heard it's not great.
You know, I had this is the first time I've watched it since I saw it in the theater, and I walked out of the theater being like, "Yeah, it was all right." I enjoyed it more this time. I think like watching it in sort of the time frame where it happens, like narrative wise, works better than like watching it after she's already dead.
Yeah, it takes place in Civil War.
It
Is that
takes place
right?
after. It takes place after Civil War. It's what she does after, she turns against Tony, and lets Cap go and stuff.
That's such an odd pocket of time for it to take place in.
But that's also the only time when she's unaccounted for in the franchise, so it makes sense.
No, I mean, yeah, you're right, but also there's so much you could have done, like her origin. Like they teased the shit out of that in Age of Ultron. I always want to know what happened there. They never said.
It kind of is about her origin.
But do they explain like the ballerina scene in Age of Ultron? Do they explain any of that, like what she went through?
They explain a little bit of the ballerina scene, like they show it. There's they actually. I guess that's one of the things that maybe some people might not like is they set up new stuff a bit. Like they show her childhood a little bit. That's how the movie starts.
Okay. Also, get on Modern Warfare.
Like they show her childhood, and the plot of the movie is about getting revenge on the people who did that shit.
Oh shit! Hold on one sec.
Tito.
The dog barked, so I had to go calm him down.
Right. So yeah, like the plot of the movie is about getting like revenge on the people who did that shit.
Okay, well that's cool.
Yeah. And some things are some of the things that like are kind of hinted at. Like there's stuff from the scene with Loki.
Oh,
that they like.
cool, because that's another thing I was gonna ask.
Yeah. They explain one of those. At least one. They might explain more than one, but there's the one. One is like the center. Well, they kind of explain it. They explain it somewhat. You don't see it, but it's pretty clear like what happened.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's a solid movie. This is all tied into my fight scene tier list, which has become my new obsession. Because I'm a maniac and I like creating work for myself for no reason that no one's going to appreciate.
Yeah, well, I have. Speaking of which, I have 5 hours of league footage to sift through to edit a video out of. So I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, I have got. So let's see what there's still some fake movies I haven't done. I haven't done any of the Spider-Man movies. I still haven't done the Guardians ones yet.
Are you rating movies or action scenes?
I'm collecting photos from the action scenes for the tier maker list.
Oh. Yeah, honestly, if you wanted to have the most work, I think rating action scenes in an action franchise was probably how you do that.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Someone, like I said, one of the inspirations from this is someone made a really good Naruto fights one that I like using. Fuck it, someone made a Naruto. I mean, someone made a characters tier list that is like every named character from every TV show and every movie. So
That
if they,
sounds like way too much.
yeah. So if they can do that, I can do this.
Yeah, Justice
And
says
plus,
that
it's fun
going.
because, like I said, I never saw like a version of this. Although defining like when a scene begins and ends is more tricky than you might think in some instances.
Don't worry, my round is starting.
What?
What?
I thought I muted everybody, and then I heard someone that was weird.
Should be in school, kid.
All right, I do have everybody muted, and it does not seem to matter. It's so funny. This guy that we're in a lobby with, there was a kid who said something, and he said, "Shouldn't you be in school, kid?" That kid could like destroy that dude by just saying, "Shouldn't you be at work, dude?"
Yeah, sick burn. Never heard that one before.
Kill confirmed.
Oh, I also watched Age of Ultron, which I still have a soft spot for. I don't give a shit what anyone says. Everyone can suck my nuts.
It's better than the first one.
Yeah, I don't think I think that anymore.
It is. I like the first one, but without the like amazingness of what the first one achieved,
Kill confirmed.
it's not like amazing. Like as a movie.
See, it's funny. I think the first one. The more I watch the first one, the more I appreciate its. The more I appreciate like its. I don't know what the word is. Like its simplicity and its cohesion. And the second one, I think, sort of suffers from. It's got. It like it wants to be this next evolution movie, but some of the ideas just don't get developed that well. So it ends up, I don't know, I appreciate the first one for being like perfecting its own like role, and the second one I think tries to take it like a step beyond that, and it doesn't really work quite as well.
I feel like the second one is just like I think the only reason why the second one like some people don't like it is because it didn't really further the overall arching story very much. Like by that point, we had already been teased Thanos. We'd already gotten like a slight like indication that they were going to be going to fight Thanos for the Infinity Gauntlet, you know? But that didn't really like further at all in Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
It wasn't supposed to though. Like that's the reason why I like it is because if you don't go into it thinking like, "Oh, now we're going to know more about Thanos, and now we're going to know more about this." Then it's a good movie.
Also, here's another thing though about the second one. I can't like pretty much every joke in the first one like makes me laugh to this day. The writing in the second one I just think is a little bit worse. Like the amount of like dick jokes in that movie is a little bit higher than you might like.
That's hilarious. We have the exact opposite opinion in that case because I think the writing in the first movie has really aged terribly.
Really?
Yeah. There's so many, like, I'm so important, and this is my line, and I have a really important line to say right now moments in the first movie that's cringy. Like, Joss Whedon's writing in the first one is cringy over time.
It's funny, I think Joss, like, when Tony rolls up, and he's like, I will be reinstituting Prima Nocta when I take over Asgard, it's like, why? Why do you have to say that?
Yeah, what about when he says, I have a plan, attack? In, like, the cheesiest fucking...
I'm saying, so yeah, it's a little cheesy, but I think that's part of the territory. I don't think dick jokes necessarily need to be in the universe.
What do you mean dick jokes? What dick jokes happen in Age of Ultron?
You and Banner better not be playing Hide the Zucchini. Actually, that was kind of funny.
That was funny.
Shit, no, because I just there's a lot of innuendo in that movie, like more than I need.
What about when I can't remember what he says to Ultron, but Ultron says
Also, I don't necessarily hold this against this movie because it is partially the responsibility of future movies to deal with it. Hulk and Nat's relationship means fuck all at the end of the day.
yeah, again, but exactly what you said is correct. It's not that movie's fault. That movie, in fact, I would say in that movie is when it's most fleshed out and like competent.
That's the only movie when it's like it's the only movie when it exists. Also,
Well, there's hints of it in Endgame.
I guess a bit. I guess like a bit, but there's like it weirdly like. I guess it's fun because I like how Captain America's character arc completed in the Infinity Saga overall. I don't give a fuck. I will fight anyone over this.
Dude.
You can talk to me. You can talk to me about like Thor or like Hulk or whatever. I can kind of see some issues with that. Captain America's character arc is great.
No, yeah, specifically in Age of Ultron, the scene where Scarlet Witch fucking goes in all their heads, and Captain America's dancing with all his old buddies, and then he turns around and they're all gone. Fucking chilling. That scene is amazing.
But hang on a sec, because what I was going to say is, I think it worked well for Cap's character arc to have it be this way. But the fact that they try to like work this romance thing in Winter Soldier, and then in the next movie they're just like, actually, we're just gonna like brush that line. We're just gonna like give one line to brush that off.
Honestly, I don't think that was a romance. I think if anything that was like sexual tension, if anything. Because they never ever have a romantic moment outside of that like fake kiss that they had to do because they were on.
Okay, so there's been so I don't know, you might not even be aware of this at all. There is some very intense does Captain America fuck discourse among people who are fans of these films.
No, he literally admits in Winter Soldier that he hasn't done that in like since he came out of the ice.
He says the opposite. He says that wasn't my first kiss since 1945.
No, yeah, he says that, but he doesn't say he had sex with anybody. And in Winter Soldier,
the thing is, it's all implicature. And so I don't know if I believe this, but I'm just pitching this as a thought.
In Winter Soldier, he's asked by the blonde girl if he's got any, if he's like gets any action or anything happened. Like, I can't remember exactly what she asks, but he then replies, "You don't really get much action when you're, when all your friends are dead," or something like that.
I don't remember that. I remember what.
You don't remember that? It sucks. I can't remember exactly what he said, but I remember this moment.
You're talking about Sharon, right?
Yeah.
Who, by the way, I fucking didn't realize is like a named character in the comics too. She's something called Agent 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't, because the line, she only says that one time, and it's a throwaway line, and it's after Nick Fury gets shot, so I wasn't really listening, in previous times when I watched that movie. Man, dude, playing Marvel Snap has made the MCU better, because now I know all these characters, and now I recognize them when I see them.
Yeah. You know what characters you should get more acquainted with?
What?
Daredevil. I can't believe you haven't seen that show. Okay. I cannot believe it. It is the best thing in Marvel. I'm not being crazy when I say that. It is so good.
Let me tell you something, and I do want to watch this show. Here's why I didn't watch the show like immediately. Okay, and this is gonna be this is gonna hurt your feelings. I'm gonna say this. Do you know what I'm about to say?
No. What do you mean it's gonna hurt my feelings?
I have at no point in my life really given that much of a fuck about Daredevil.
Well, that's where you're wrong.
Now, like I said, that I think the show, I'm going to watch it, and I think this show is probably going to change my mind about that. But I was not a big Daredevil fan at any point, so when I heard there was a good show about him, I wasn't like, okay, well, now must go do thing.
See, I grew up watching Daredevil because although he wasn't like my favorite when I grew up, he was always around my favorites like Spider-Man. I remember I owned a really old Spider-Man cartoon DVD where it was basically like the arc of Daredevil. You would get Spider-Man met Daredevil and then like learn more about him, and you learned about Daredevil's origin through Spider-Man. And then the terrible Ben Affleck Daredevil movie, I actually saw that in theaters, so I liked it as a kid. Growing up, obviously, it's terrible.
As a kid, I didn't even really get into those movies, and I think that's kind of what did it. Is like that was all the Daredevil I ever had, so that was just what Daredevil was. And I was like, I don't really give a shit about this guy.
But all that, granted, given all that, the show is it's so amazing. Like, it's not just like your typical they take the source material and make something really cool out of it. They turn Daredevil. They basically take a character who's already good and Star-Lorded him and made him even cooler and gave him all new like mythos and shit.
Interesting.
It's so good. Like, they don't. I wouldn't say they follow the source material exactly, but they definitely improve upon it. There's characters that appear from the comics that they add into and make it more realistic. Like, basically like what they do with the MCU, except Daredevil is so like it's hard to explain because it's just Daredevil's just different. Like, if you've never read a Daredevil comic, I'm assuming, since you said you've never been into him. Daredevil's like Marvel's Batman in a way, because his rogues gallery, well, not all of them actually, but his villains are some of the best villains in the whole Marvel universe.
Like who?
Like Kingpin? Like
Spider-Man villain.
No, he's a Daredevil villain. He started in Spider-Man, but he is a Daredevil villain. He makes Daredevil's life hell. Him and Daredevil have had like an endless rivalry to the end of time where Daredevil like so badly wants to follow. This is another reason that what makes him Batman is he's the only hero who follows the no killing rule so closely that like it's like super important to him. Like, he basically feels the same way about the no killing rule as Batman does. He will not kill under any circumstance. Almost.
Right.
But that's what makes his struggle with Wilson Fisk so good, because unlike Joker, Fisk isn't crazy, he's just evil. He is just straight up corporate evil.
Talk about that in fucking Spider-Man game.
There's a moment. So Daredevil's always trying to like convince himself that he can deal with Fisk without killing him, and the worst part is it never works. Daredevil's method where he can't kill Fisk always comes back to bite him in the ass, because Fisk controls everyone, and literally it seems like the only way to deal with him is to kill him. But Daredevil won't kill. It's like his one thing, you know?
Is he in the show?
Wilson Fisk?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and he's a fucking amazing character. He's so good.
So here's a broader question. Just hold that thought for a second. So, is he just like in like the most mainline thing? Is he just a really fat dude, or is he like enhanced somehow?
He is just a really fat dude, but also has a surprising amount of strength behind him.
That's what I'm saying is like he fucking. In, like, the fucking Spider-Man game, that motherfucker's, like, punching through stone columns and shit.
Yeah, he's really strong. No, it's never really explained.
Is this guy fucking Bane? Like, what's happening?
Kind of. It's never really explained why he's as strong as he is. We just kind of get the impression that he is a bodybuilder a little bit. Like, he lifts a lot of weights. He's not, like, ripped, but he's, like, big, you know?
Yeah.
So he's formidable. He doesn't have super strength, but he's still hard to deal with.
Okay. Anyway, continue. Who else are...
There's this comic that I like. This really explains the Daredevil Wilson Fisk rivalry really well, in my opinion. There's a comic that came out recently where the Avengers had to help Daredevil deal with Fisk because Fisk ran for president.
Oh boy.
And
always great when two villains run for president. Lex Luthor, Wilson Fisk, it never goes wrong.
In fact, that's a good comparison. Fisk is basically the Marvel's Lex Luthor, except, in my opinion, way more ruthless and brutal.
It's also a fucking tank.
Yeah. He's like Marvel's Lex Luthor if there was no good in him. Because you know how there's like a tiny bit of good in Lex? Like, he's like, he technically wants what's best for the world, even though he's super jealous of Superman.
Yeah, he steps in to say like, no, don't blow up the universe or whatever every
Yeah,
once in a while.
Fisk pretends like he has the city's best interests at heart. He often makes that speech to Daredevil, like, "I am what this city needs. I am gonna blah blah blah." But he's just an asshole. He's just a selfish like asshole. And what I was gonna say is there's a comic where he works with the Purple Man, who's Jessica Jones' villain. Remember I told you about him like a week ago, the guy
Yeah.
who could just tell you to do things.
Because now even though you said it was only like all right, like I kind of want to watch these Defenders people now, just because I'm like, what the hell is this?
Oh no, they're good. Hold on. I'll talk about that in a sec, but let me finish this analogy I'm making. So in the comic, he works with the Purple Man, Kilgrave, I think his name is. And he essentially gets Kilgrave to make him an item that does what his power is. So he gets Kilgrave to make him an item that allows Fisk to just tell anybody to do what he wants, and they'll have to do it. Daredevil fights Fisk at the end of the comic, gets the upper hand, grabs this rod, uses it on Fisk and says, "Think on the sins. Think on every person that you've ever caused pain and obsess over it." And Fisk has like a 5-second moment where he's like wide-eyed and he's going, ah, and then he goes, "Done." And like has no regrets. And Daredevil just goes, "He has to die," and he starts beating him to death with that rod. It's
That's fucking awesome.
he just goes, "Done."
That's fucking okay. That's fucking baller. I respect that.
He's insane. Fisk is one of the best villains in the Marvel universe. But the TV shows aren't bad. I would say that it's kind of weird. Like the quality varies. Jessica Jones, only the first season's good in my opinion. The second season's I never really got into it. Luke Cage is the same way. The first season's really good. I never watched the second season. I never watched any of Iron Fist because the first episode was garbage, and apparently the rest of the show was too.
Yeah, didn't seem like a big.
Defenders was good, but it kind of the novelty of it kind of wears off in the end. Because it's not like one movie; it's a whole TV show. And, like, it's cool to see them all interact in the first few episodes and see what they have in store, but it doesn't really get exciting past that. Daredevil, though, worth it. Literally, I mean, Season 2 kind of is less good than Season 1 and Season 3, but it's still good. The Punisher's in it, and, like, he's a big part of it. But Daredevil is just, it's so good. It's literally like the Iron Man of the TV show Marvel movies. Like, his character is so compelling. The situations that he's constantly presented with are really interesting to see him work through. Because the unfortunate thing about Daredevil is that even though he is the one who follows the no-killing rule the most closely, his villains are probably the ones out of all of the villains in Marvel that deserve death the most.
I say, like, who are his other villains? Who else does he fight?
Bullseye, who's basically like better Hawkeye. He's like Hawkeye, but with any item, not just arrows, not just bows and arrows. Like, he literally will throw pencils at people's necks and kill them.
Yowza.
Yeah, it's he's pretty freaking dangerous. Also, his backstory is like really, really brutal.
Is Absorbing Man in Daredevil, or is that a different show?
He's not in the show. I think he might be in the comics, though.
Because I know Absorbing Man is in a show.
I don't think he's in Daredevil now.
So, you were talking, what did you say? Oh, you were talking about, like, Daredevil and the no-killing rule, right? Speaking of killing in superhero movies, you know what I kind of thought upon watching Black Panther that I never really thought before?
What?
Like, that fight that they have when T'Challa returns, right? After he gets dropped off the cliff and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They fucking, like, that's not just like a little, like, whatever. They have a fucking civil war in Wakanda. And it doesn't feel like we deal with that, like, in the late... Like, that is, like, some national identity crisis shit right there. Like, it's not just where like they are fucking bonking each other's heads and knocking motherfuckers dead.
Yeah.
And they don't really like. And I just noticed after that, I was like, this is like a civil war. Why is this not called the Wakandan Civil War? Why are we not talking about this more?
Well, it didn't really last very long, did it? T'Challa just came
No, but
back
that's
and
like this was the first time like they fought like a war in like 100 years or whatever, and they're killing each other, and then the next, and then it just never comes up again. It's like that's traumatizing shit. Anyway,
but yeah, watch Daredevil. I can't believe you haven't yet. It's crazy.
yeah, I think I did. To be honest, like I haven't like heard. Like the only thing I know that people like it is that people cheered like hell when he showed up in Spider-Man.
I'm not kidding. Out of all the crazy cameos and people that were like surprises in the movie, the one that I had the biggest like pop, quote unquote, for was Daredevil. When Daredevil when the camera just panned over to him, I was like, oh my god, it's Daredevil. And that moment where he catches the brick, that's so fucking cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
He's like, how did you do that? I'm a really good lawyer.
I could tell just from like actually it's funny, I saw a Reddit thread today that was talking about like superhero movies, and it was talking about like the way that like power is like distributed in superhero movies and how a lot of times it doesn't make any sense, like how the fuck, you know, it was basically just like how the fuck can Hawkeye and like Scarlet Witch like exist in the same universe and like both be like superheroes, like it doesn't make any sense.
How, who, and who?
How like Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch can like exist in the same universe, like it just doesn't make sense.
God, how do I fucking, oh my god, how do I fucking mute these people? I thought they were muted.
And Daredevil sort of like Daredevil is actually one of the examples they sort of provided of that, which was funny that you're talking about it now, because that's what they were saying, was they were like, in Daredevil, like he has to punch every dude like 20 times to put them down, but that's part of like the realism.
Yeah, that's what makes his fight so cool, in my opinion.
Like most superhero movies, they're just like, and she was comparing it to like, meanwhile, Black Widow will like do like a fucking roundhouse kick on a dude in full body armor one time, and he'll drop to the ground, and you just won't ever see him again.
Right. But that's what's so cool about the show in Daredevil, is that in his fights, like you were saying, it's funny that you're doing this list without including Daredevil. That's probably the way you should do it, because if you had to include Daredevil, all of the top fights would be in Daredevil. His fights are so cool because not only are they really well choreographed, they're also really realistic. It's like he, you know, in the clip that I sent you, there were moments where he had to take his breath. Like he would have to lay down or like lay against the wall and be like, "Oh fuck, I'm exerting so much energy," you know?
Right.
Which no other like hero does that. No, like you were saying, Black Widow just fucking does a hurricanrana on a dude, and then fucking, you know, tasers, and then walks out like she's a hot badass, which, you know, is cool, but I think it's way more cool to see Daredevil literally dive into a room full of dudes with like guns and knives and shit, and still somehow make it out like by the skin of his teeth, like tired as all hell.
Yeah, I can just tell from it is more like grounded than some of the other ones. I actually think that's one of the reasons, as I've been watching these movies again, I've been thinking about these fight scenes. Also, Civil War is another one I watched the other day that still fucking rocks. And the thing that I noticed is that was sort of one of the things that I liked about the last fight in Civil War, is that even though because, you know, Tony has the suit and Captain America is a super soldier, even though they're still moving fast, like it's one of the I think the mainline MCU fights where you can like most feel like the fatigue setting in. It's like the fucking wrestling
in Civil
thing.
War.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like it's like the fucking wrestling thing where the two dudes just like slow punch each other because they're so they're playing like they're so exhausted. It's like that's one of the fights where that really comes through. Whereas sometimes it's just like and again, a lot of them are enhanced people. They have the stamina of 7 humans, so like I don't really care.
Yeah, sometimes it makes sense.
It is cool to see stuff like that, like really to really feel the weight of that stuff, or like when in Endgame when Cap stands up before the big fucking reinforcements thing happens, like you feel the weight of that fight
Yeah,
because he's ass handed to him.
that scene in Civil War where Bucky and Cap start tag teaming Tony, and like at the very end of the fight where like they're like tossing the shield to each other and like beating the shit out of him. That was so good.
Yeah, that shot of the 2v1 fucking rocks. That said, the more I watch that movie, there's a every movie that Iron Man appears in, there's a how much of a crazy dickhead is Tony in this movie power ranking.
Well,
And like
Tony learns from his mistakes. Every movie he gets stronger because
but makes other mistakes.
well, yeah, because Tony's a problematic dude.
So there's a list of when you take every movie that Iron Man makes a meaningful appearance in, and it's a list of how big of a dickhead is Tony in this movie. So like tied for 1 and number 2 are Iron Man 3 and Age of Ultron.
Why is he a dickhead in Iron Man 3?
He fucking invites the guy. He puts his pep in danger by challenging the guy, giving him his home address, and then he gets the fucking house blown up.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And usually it's not like the whole movie. Usually it's one decision: creating Ultron, challenging, giving the home address, et cetera, et cetera. Number 3 on that list, I think, is Civil War, just because like I understand the emotions of the situation, and I understand his feeling with the Accords. But like, that this dude was fucking brainwashed. Like, I get it, but you're an asshole. Like, you have this emotional outburst where you're gonna kill 2 fucking people because of Soviet mind control. It's like, dude, you're a dick.
But to be fair, if there's one moment in Civil War where I actually understand Tony's motivations, it's when he's told that Bucky killed his parents and that Captain America knew it and kept it from him.
Yeah, I guess Cap keeping it from him kind of. But see, it's funny because my thing is like I understand why he feels like he might want the Accords because he looks at what he's done and thinks that being not having any limits on it is like the root of the problem.
Well, like, I understand it too. I guess what I mean is that it's the moment that I agree with him. Like I don't agree with Tony, even though I understand it. But if I was told in like a slight moment that my best friend knew that that my parents were killed by his best friend, I'd be pissed. I'd be a little pissed.
Yeah.
Like if Vince killed my mom and dad and you had kept it from me for years, I'd be a little pissed off at you.
God, brutal. And actually, the thing that I noticed with watching Civil War again, every time I watch Civil War, and maybe this might be true for comic readers too. In fact, I bet it might, given how awful Tony is in the fucking comic book. Every time I watch Civil War, I find the Tony side like argument kind of weaker.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I noticed more flaw. Like, for example, I don't know why I never noticed this before, but you remember when they're all talking about it for the first time, and Vision is like, the more of us there are, like the more likely it is that people are going to want to challenge our strength.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you guys having a UN panel doesn't fix that problem. Like, you all still exist, and people all know you exist.
Yeah.
So that doesn't, like, he's like, oversight is not an idea that can be dismissed out of hand. It's like, I don't know, dude. Like, if I fucking, I'm trying to think of an analogy. Like, if I just challenge other people to fights, just because I have a manager doesn't mean like other people wouldn't want to challenge me to fights. Like, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That was the first time where I really noticed that. I was like, I love Vision, but this is not like the fucking robot logic that he thinks it is.
Well, no, it is robot logic. I feel like it's like it makes sense when you say it, but like when you think about it, it's like, well, there's a lot of other things that don't make sense about it. I feel like that's
Vision is
robot logic.
Watching Ultron and some Oregon, Vision is fucking awesome. Is also like OP as shit.
Yeah.
And I hope White Vision comes back around because I like. Paul
I know.
Bettany.
What the fuck? Like, we haven't gotten anything about that since WandaVision ended.
They're apparently he's in concept art for the Kang thing.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean it's concept art.
But isn't Scarlet Witch dead? Like, what's going on with her?
Yeah, she's dead. Or at least, well, she's dead, but she's comic book dead.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of characters that have died recently, so I'm wondering
Yes.
like what that means.
She might be dead. She also might not be. And hey, maybe we'll get to see like what Vision is without Wanda. Or something. I don't know. I did kind of wonder like if they were gonna pay that off sooner. There's a lot of like I'm really curious about this next phase of the MCU for the reason that like this is like sort of the do or die time in terms of like the thing about Phase 4, which there are several movies in Phase 4 that I think are pretty good, but it doesn't have the big overarching thing really. There was no Avengers movie really. You know what?
A video that I watched put it really well for me. Oh my god, all of Phase 1, 2, and 3 were all reaching to an endpoint.
Yeah.
Whereas Phase 4 is more like branching out into multiple different directions.
Yeah, but now it seems like with the new, now they're coalescing back around trying to get to Avengers, and that's why I'm very curious how Ant-Man turns out, because that's like the first big step towards that. But what I was gonna say is they're doing it with characters that are established, but not like Iron Man level established. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm curious. Like some of them are like, this Thunderbolts thing might be interesting because like fucking Winter Soldier's in it. Zemo, I guess, is supposed to be part of it or something.
Yeah, Thunderbolts is basically like Marvel's Suicide Squad.
Yeah. Although there is one person who is in the Thunderbolts poster, at least or like the Thunderbolts art that I've seen, that is a fucking. I don't know how you might actually not like the Black Widow movie depending on your opinions. Do you know who one of the villains is in Black Widow? That like one of the named characters?
No.
Taskmaster.
Okay.
And
cool.
It sucks.
Oh. Why does he suck?
Because well, first of all, it's a she, which is really weird.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, and I won't spoil who it is, but it's a person with like a plot relevant connection, and she is.
Wait, so it's a character we already know?
No, but it's a character with a plot connection in the movie.
Okay.
It would make sense if you'd seen it. And the fighting is cool. Like, she throws a shield around like she's Captain America. She has fucking Black Panther claws. All the stuff that I hear Taskmaster is supposed to be, which is like he uses his robo helmet to study people's fighting styles and then copy them. Or something. The problem is that she is a fucking mind-controlled zombie with like no personality.
Oh.
I hear silence. Silence and violence. Hello?
Hello.
Did you hear what I said?
She's a mindless zombie?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. So they have her in the fucking Thunderbolts thing, and I'm like, she's like not a character. like the end of the movie, they kind of start resolving that, but like she's not a character. Like at least fucking Winter Soldier and U.S. Agent and these other people, like these are characters at least. Even if you don't love them, they are identifiable characters with personalities. So I don't know what they're gonna do about that, but I'm interested in some of the other ones. Also, every time I watch MCU movies again, Thunderbolt Ross is the fucking worst. Okay.
Oh, he in the comics, he's the guy who runs the Thunderbolts.
Yeah, I know. I think that's what they're doing here too.
But the actor's dead.
Yeah, they're recasting it.
Oh.
In fact, Harrison Ford was in talks to play him.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
I don't know if that's either A, decided, or B, still like in the works. But it's a thing that I heard might happen.
That's pretty cool.
But Thunderbolt Ross is the fucking worst, right? Because in the Hulk, he's a general.
That
He can't catch Hulk despite devoting all the military resources he can get his hands on to doing it. Then he takes this obviously fucking egoistic jackass and hops him up on super drugs repeatedly. Nearly causes massive damage to innocent civilians and gets promoted to fucking Secretary of State.
yeah, that's how it works in the real world, right?
But I mean, Jesus, like that's pretty bad. Like, is Trump president?
I mean, in that world, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, but I was reminded just like he's the and then he's like, and I'm fine with it in Civil War because it's like necessary setup and stuff. But every time I see the whole like, well, the heroes are responsible for the villain, like I'm so fucking sick of that. I don't care if it's Marvel or DC or fucking Transformers or whatever. Like I'm just tired of that shit. Like,
oh, Luke's awake.
well, that's what they do in Transformers. Is
Yeah,
like,
I know. I remember that.
in Transformers 4, when they're killing Ratchet, the guy's like, I lost his sister in Chicago. It's like, the Decepticons attacked Chicago, you fucking jackass! It was their fault. They were gonna kill them. Your sister was gonna die anyway, because the evil people were there.
Yeah.
Alright.
All right. Well, I streamed all that and recorded it, so I'll cut that together too.
Nice. Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye.